It's been a few weeks now since Donald Trump has announced plans to reopen Alcatraz Island as a federal prison. Once again, it's been closed since 1963. And here are the headlines from a few weeks ago and just from 2 days ago. U.S. officials visit Alcatraz amid Trump's plan to reopen the island prison. And as many know that have followed my channel over the years, it's been well over a decade since I covered this topic of the supposed escape of Frank Morris and the England brothers. Called this out as a fabrication, of course, being a real prison, of course, serving as a military base during the Civil War. They actually had Southern prisoners held at Alcatraz Island, and later on, the government wanted to convert Alcatraz Island from a military prison to a federal prison. And as you can see, the date, October 1933. Of course, October, the only month of the year that is 33 in numerology. And of course, 1933, the 33 at the end, you get your dual 33s when it comes to Freemasonry. Back on topic with Frank Morris and the England brothers. Once again, of course, a real prison. But to close out the prison, they want to go out with a bang by making up a story with their fabricated history they have created. This was to be part of it. Just take a look here. Inside of Alcatraz itself, of course, a maximum security prison. And as many know, as the story goes, they supposedly used a broken vacuum cleaner, took out the motor, and used it to drill a hole around the vents so they can make their way out and create a workshop above their prison cells. There's absolutely no way. There are no electrical outlets anywhere to be found. And if they actually used the motor, how loud would it be? And obviously the prison guards would hear the drilling taking place. Now let's take a look here at the items that were allowed in Alcatraz. Let's get a little bit of a close-up, get a better view. All the allowed items per prison cell in Alcatraz. Nowhere inside does it talk about an electrical outlet. The only thing you might see is radio headphones. And these are not electrical, and they are closer to the entrance of the cell themselves. And these are simple RCA jacks. You're not going to power up a drill using an RCA jack, so there's absolutely no way this is possible. Now let's take a listen to CBS News and this interview with this one individual working in Alcatraz Island talking about the escape.
This past summer, I got an exclusive tour of some never-before-seen parts of Alcatraz. After months of meticulous planning, on the night of June 11, 1962, the trio of bank robbers squeezed through the vents in the back of their cells.
They literally drill small holes around the existing vent and then push that concrete in.
So you see, without a shadow of a doubt, supposedly using this vacuum motor, convert it into a drill. Again, there's absolutely no way with all the evidence I provided. Now let's take a look here. Another aspect from the CBS News interview at Alcatraz. And take a listen to this nonsense. More and more you look, the more and more you see, the more and more you realize this is nothing more than a fabrication. Nothing about this makes sense. Take a listen.
Inflated their raft and paddled away, never to be seen again.
The inmates used 50 raincoats to make that raft.
So they used 50 raincoats to make this raft that's all folded up. 50 raincoats. How do you smuggle 50 raincoats past guards in a maximum security prison? There's absolutely no way this is possible. And besides the motor itself, like I showed earlier, you have this raft that's made out of 50 raincoats. 50 raincoats. Think about that. And not only that, you had the life jackets. You can see this is very well made. No way these guys had the ability to make something of this sort above the prison cell. And also, not only that, you had these paddles supposedly made on this makeshift workshop. And here's another supposedly left behind after the so-called escape. All this is nonsense. And again, I have to really emphasize the size and the amount of items they supposedly smuggled into the cells. Again, the vacuum motor, 50 raincoats, not 15, 50. How do you smuggle 50 raincoats into a prison cell? I can understand very small objects, but how do you smuggle in all these items of this size? How do you get a motor of this size past a security guard in a maximum security prison? 50 raincoats once again. This is really unbelievable. All these items. If you can get all these items past these security guards, you can smuggle in a bus or a boat into one of these prison cells. Give me a break. Now with the occultic aspect, with the Freemasons behind it all, when it comes to Alcatraz in this complete fabrication of a prison escape. Let's get right to it with the occultic side of things.
It was a legendary escape from a place that was supposed to be inescapable. 55 years ago this month, 3 men pulled off the impossible, breaking out of Alcatraz.
Only on 5 tonight, Betty Yu takes us to some rare locations on the rock to show us how they got out.
There's something about this old prison that brings nearly 4,000.
And there you see the magic number, the Masonic number 33. And this is where the boats take off for the tours of Alcatraz. Pier 33, out of all the piers that you see here in the San Francisco Bay. And here you see Fort Mason. And actually, just take a look here. This is the mailing address for Alcatraz Island. As you see here, Golden Gate National Recreation Area at Fort Mason, 201. And again, they always code what they create. And make no mistake about it, again, the 33. And again, I have to really emphasize that of all the piers, they select Pier 33 as part of the boat tour to see Alcatraz. Now let's take a look here at Pier 33. And what do you see here? The very Masonic arch, 100%. Make no mistake about it. Take a look here. In comparison, this depiction with the Masons and their arch and the number 33 right above, just like you see here with obviously Pier 33. Now side by side, obviously a Masonic creation. The architects of this world in their fabricated history and their signs and symbols in plain sight. Here you see the Alcatraz landing right here. I found this extremely interesting, where you see this one cab, and just take a little bit of a close-up and look at the phone number parked right in front of Pier 33. The phone number, 333-3333. Give me a break, 100%. And as part of the tour of the San Francisco Bay, take a look here at the blue and gold fleet with Alcatraz in the back. This is a completely different tour. This is a tour of the actual bay, going under the Golden Gate Bridge, seeing other landmarks of San Francisco from the bay itself, but it passes through, passes by, and circles Alcatraz as part of the tour. So again, blue and gold, always coded. When it comes to the Masons, again, they're all about signs, symbols, dates, numbers, and colors. And here is a prime example, as you see here with the Masonic ring, with the blue and gold colors. Obviously by design. Just take a look here with Pythagorean numerology. Blue and gold is 33. And with Chaldean, blue and gold is 33 as well. Your dual 33s in plain sight. Just as I've shown many times with Freemason, Grand Sovereign Commander Luther Smith, and the dual 33s. It all comes down to this quote from Manly P. Hall. When the human race learns to read the language of symbolism, a great veil will fall from the eyes of men. And very interesting how this was all mapped out with this complete fabrication of a prison escape. You have Alcatraz Warden Blackwell, who they say was on vacation during the escape. And you had Associate Warden Dollison, who was the acting warden, as you can see here, from the 1979 movie Escape from Alcatraz, played by Patrick McGowan. And here is the actual daughter of Warden Dollison, and she wrote a book. She wrote a few books on Alcatraz. And before even showing the books, take a look here at the surname Dollison in numerology. Again, the acting warden. Just so happens to be 33 in numerology. Getting back to the daughter of Dollison, just take a look here. This is from her official website, Jolene Babiak. And take a look. Obviously, this is Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. This is Al Capone, the one-eye symbolism, obviously, with the Birdman of Alcatraz, Robert Stroud. Take a look at the book cover, the same. The one-eye symbolism. All these people, part of this fabricated story in our history. They're showing their signs and symbols. Once again, take a look here. Al Capone and the one-eye symbol once again. And just take a look at the name Al Capone. Of course, a major player on the world stage. Just so happens to be 33 numerology. So for all those that doubt the Masonic connections, the occult, just take a look here at this Freemason magazine. Make no mistake about it. They highly prize Alcatraz as the rock. And we know biblically the rock is God. Just take a look at these Bible verses from Isaiah 26:4. Trust in the Lord forever because God, the Lord, is the rock. And take a look here from Deuteronomy 32:4. He is the rock. His work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, a God of truth, and without inequity, just and right is he. The rock and the symbolism, and this is flat out mockery. Make no mistake about it, by those behind the scenes pulling the string. And another aspect of Alcatraz, several years after Alcatraz closed down as a federal prison, no doubt this was a psyop with the American Indian tribes gathering on the island, taking it over basically. There's no way they can do this unless it was allowed. And you have Indian land. This is coded part of the world stage as well, with Indian land basically being 33 land. And obviously the eagle in plain sight. Here's the dual-headed eagle, or the dual-headed phoenix as some refer to. And also take a look here. This is 100% staged. Just a production, like I said. Here you see the San Francisco police and this Indian tribe leader speaking. And again, this is just a photo op, part of this world stage event from 1969 to 1971 when this all went down. Just take a look here as well with this TP on Alcatraz. And interestingly enough, you have the Golden Gate Bridge in the back. Of course, painted orange. Orange is 33. And it was constructed in 1933. The same year, the government took over Alcatraz as a federal prison. Another interesting aspect here when it comes to the so-called Indian takeover is you had all this graffiti all over the place. And obviously this is recent history as the tourists all around, as you see here, the bookstore. But all the graffiti, after they repainted here, they retouched up all the Indian graffiti. Here's an article discussing it from back in 2012, specifically with this water tower. When they repainted the water tower itself, all the graffiti was touched up because this is part of their created history with the Indian tribes, again, gathering on Alcatraz. They're not going to paint over it. Again, it's part of their history that they want to preserve, and this was meant to happen. And here's another vantage point of the water tower itself on Alcatraz. So from start to finish, everything we've seen take place with Alcatraz after the fact, after the closure, is world stage theater. And that gets into the movies. There's been many movies based on Alcatraz. And of course, Hollywood is owned and controlled by the Freemasons. And the very first movie based on Alcatraz is The Birdman of Alcatraz. And it was released in theaters just 1 month after the supposed escape. What an amazing coincidence. Just the timing of it all. Just 1 month after the supposed escape. Filming started in 1960. Again, released just 1 month after the supposed escape. And that gets into the next movie, as we see with Clint Eastwood. Of course, Hollywood, Eastwood. It's all about pagan tree worship with the wood in the name. And more movies. The very next year, 1980 TV movie, Alcatraz, the whole shocking story, which you have here with all these individuals, big names out of Hollywood, all Freemasons. Make no mistake about it. In 2012, you had this TV series, of course, titled Alcatraz on Fox. There was also the 1996 movie based on Alcatraz titled The Rock. I actually seen this movie at the Burlingame Drive-In right next to the San Francisco Bay, about 15 miles from Alcatraz itself. And obviously the one-eye symbolism displayed once again. You had another movie that was released in 2018, inspired by the so-called true events of Alcatraz. With this video presentation, it should be crystal clear. Obviously, the Alcatraz escape is nothing but a psyop, nothing but a hoax. They obviously just didn't want to close it without some type of hype, some type of attention. And the perfect story was this prison escape, which obviously creates a lot of interest. You have nearly 1.6 million visitors a year to Alcatraz, and they bring in nearly $60 million a year on tourist money alone. And that gets back to Donald Trump. During this press conference, he's asked about the reopening of Alcatraz, and there's a lot of hints in plain sight, with Alcatraz being nothing more than a store. He mentions Hollywood movies. He mentions duality as the good and the bad of Alcatraz. And in conclusion, I'm going to play this clip, and it speaks for itself. For anybody that's wide awake, it's clear what Donald Trump is saying here. Take a listen.
To reopen Alcatraz, how will you use it? How did you come up with the idea?
Well, I guess I was supposed to be a movie maker. We started with the movie making, and we'll end. I mean, it represents something very strong, very powerful in terms of law and order. Our country needs law and order. Alcatraz is, I would say, the ultimate, right? Alcatraz, Sing Sing and Alcatraz, the movies. But it's right now a museum, believe it or not. A lot of people go there. But it sort of represents something that's both horrible and beautiful and strong and miserable, weak. It's got a lot of qualities that are interesting.
John chapter 9, verse 25. Whereas once I was blind, now I can see. Now I can see.